So guys, this is for your consent that I have started recording of the session. Okay guys, so do let me know once you are able to see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So guys, first of all, let me ask you a thing. Do you have any questions so far? The particular things which we have discussed within last session. Do you guys have any question in that? Yes, guys, do you have any question?
No.
I think I have one question. It's related to the Direct Connect. It's interview question. If you don't mind. How do you make sure the AWS Direct Connect does not have downtime?
Which one? Which component?
Direct Connect.
Direct Connect. Okay. So basically, AWS Direct Connect provides you the connectivity from AWS to on-prem data center. The first thing. Second thing, if we talk about that, it is not going to have downtime. So there is a particular ISP which are preferred by AWS. You can not opt any ISP like internet service provider to get in connection with AWS, right? So AWS ensures that only preferred ISPs with their better performance and previous trend of providing services. Only after that, AWS signs an agreement with them. Second thing, it is not 100% uptime for sure. If let us say there is a LAN cable, which is, let us say that is going through any land area, if that is cut because of any unforeseen reason, then even ISP does not guarantee for 100% uptime. AWS can ensure from their end because they have really highly available infrastructure. But if ISP goes down, then AWS will not be able to do anything in that. Because there are two components. First, the particular vendor who is going to provide you the internet connection. Second thing, if we talk about AWS, so AWS is high resilience connection. That does not go down usually. So far, that is somewhere like 9 times 9 available. Like 99.9999999. This is the high availability which AWS provides as of now. Okay, so let us remove this because today we are going to extend the particular infrastructure diagram. Right, guys? Okay, so guys, let us consider that this is a basic and generic infrastructure architecture view, right? What we are going to today is we are going to see that if we are working for an e-commerce platform, then how does it look like? Because today we are not only going to see the particular DNS flow, but obviously we will have to understand the flow from back-end side as well, right? Now, first of all, what we are going to do, we are going to see here that how do we monitor components here? What are the particular components do we monitor? Then what are the tools do we use? Or if you have to say, for example, that you have not worked with any sort of such environment, and if you have to prove that yes, you have architectural level knowledge, how would you be able to prove that? So these sort of things we are going to discuss as committed within last class, that we are going to enhance this infrastructure architecture diagram. That is what we are going to do today. So first of all, guys, let us talk about monitoring part. So I am going to keep this monitoring section inside this particular VPC only. So for monitoring, what tool have you used? If someone is going to ask, so guys, what are the monitoring tool have you used so far? Anyone?
CloudWatch.
Okay. Okay, so let me tell you guys, CloudWatch is a particular tool that can be used for sure in order to monitor the particular services which are related to AWS only. For example, if you are running Tomcat, so it will be really hard for you to monitor like Tomcat performance on the level of CloudWatch. Why it is so? Every single metrics which you are going to post to CloudWatch, that will be paid. Second thing, as you are already aware of, that AWS provides two type of metrics here. The very first type of metric here is basic. Basic means AWS will monitor things every 5 minutes. So if you are running mission critical application where end users are getting connected, and if your AWS CloudWatch is going to notify you for that downtime or for any unuseful activity which is happening within your application, so that will not be practical use case, right? Second thing here is, if you are monitoring detailed, if you have enabled detailed monitoring with CloudWatch, that will become paid service. Moreover, even your AWS does not monitor the memory. So what are the components do we monitor with AWS CloudWatch? First of all, we are going to monitor like traffic, CPU. Then after the incoming traffic, outgoing traffic, we can monitor hits per target. We can monitor like how many 3xx, 4xx, 5xx are there. How many success ratio, what is success ratio? What is response time of individual target group or individual target? These sort of things we can monitor. But where is it mentioned that we are going to monitor Apache is running or not? Right? So we have to monitor, we have to implement additional tool for sure. CloudWatch can help you for sure for monitoring all the tools which are related to AWS itself, whether you can go for detailed monitoring or you can go for default monitoring. But guys, we need to ensure this thing that yes, as and when required, we have another tool as well. Because if we are talking about like production environment, then 1 minute is spent does not work. At least every 15 seconds, we should be monitoring the infrastructure. Because if it is a database or application server or web server, if load increases, then we have to take actions very immediately. Very quickly, we have to take actions. Right? So we can talk about Prometheus. That is the latest and modern tool which is going for monitoring. Moreover, if you talk about traditional, you can go for Nagios or any other tool. But within this particular session, we are going to discuss about Prometheus because it is open source, very fast. Moreover, if we talk about like GUI, so it's suppose Kibana and Grafana. So Grafana is going to be the particular dashboard for visualizing things. Okay. Now the thing here is, what are the components do we monitor? Because if you are facing an interview and if someone would like to know that have you really worked within any production environment or not, then there can be a particular question. Okay, tell me a thing that what are the particular components do you put under monitoring when new service is going to go live? So guys, there are two components. First of all, infra. Infra means you can call about your VM, your container, or your physical server. We can call that physical server, physical machine, physical box, whatever you want to call it, right? Second thing here is the particular service, or you can call that application. So guys, there are two components. First of all, let's talk about physical server. So I would like to have input from your side. So guys, what are the components would you like to monitor as part of your monitoring stack? What are the particular component would you like to monitor here?
CPU, memory.
Okay, let us go one by one. CPU, okay.
Memory.
Wait, that is CPU. And what will you monitor under CPU?
CPU utilization.
CPU utilization.
Yes.
Memory utilization.
Okay, wait. What is this? This is a real weird behavior. So will you check only utilization or will you prefer to monitor load average?
Load average.
we are not only going to monitor the CPU utilization, we will check load average as well. Now memory. And guys, let me tell you, utilization represents current status of it, and load average will throw you the stats of 3 different metrics like 1 minute, 5 minutes, and 15 minutes, right? Okay, what next?
Disk usage.
Disk. Like what we are going to monitor here under disk. So we are not only going to monitor like total disk available, how much used, how much free, this sort of thing on not monitor, but IO stat as well. Uses less IO, like input output PS, because it can happen like disk is completely free. Let us say we have 5 terabyte of disk space available, but IO is not sufficient. That is why the load on server may go high. That is why I'm telling you that we are not only going to monitor here disk uses, but IOPS as well. Input output per second, we will have to monitor, right? Okay, what next?
Dead log.
Which one log?
The dead log, like pages.
Flow logs.
Logs.
VPC flow logs.
Okay, let us not talk about like individual services logs. So it could be like logs only. Let us monitor logs. And guys, let me tell you, logs cannot be monitored by Kibana, Grafana, or any other thing. We need to set up one other component, which is known as ELK. We are going to discuss that part today itself, but on this particular page.
Okay, any network monitoring it cannot do, right, Prometheus?
Definitely, we will monitor network here.
Is it like Nagios?
And what we are going to monitor here, like network bytes in, network bytes out, right? Overall network throughput, the particular capacity of our network interface. Because sometimes what happens if we are working with such an application where a lot of data transfer is required. So in that particular case, guys, what happens? Basically, we forget to check that what is the maximum capacity of this LAN card or whatever interface we are using here. And we keep on looking for other components. So at least we need to have a particular network monitoring for complete bandwidth, current utilization, other particular graphs which we have. We need to analyze the trend of 1 day, of 7 days, of 15 days. That whether there was any spike, and if there was any spike, then we will match that particular graph with some other graphs of application, like what application was consuming, what application was having a lot of requests that moment when network bandwidth was really high. Moreover, we will have to check that if there is a network spike, there is a network like high network consumption is there. So whether any cron job for transferring data is there, or do we have any scheduler from application side, or is there any refreshing activity, or is there any batch job which is scheduled at this particular time? Those sort of things we will have to monitor. And guys, keep this thing in mind whenever we are setting up the particular schedulers. Scheduler means such a task which is supposed to be running at any specific given point in time, every day, maybe multiple times in a day. So at the time of scheduling this sort of task, we have to be very, very careful that when we are scheduling these tasks, so on any other task which is also going to be consumed same set of resources should not be scheduled. Once task A is going to get completed, then, or maybe even we can take a small buffer in that, then task B should get started. Otherwise, let us say if 2 tasks which are CPU consuming are going to run in parallel, they will bring your other services down, right? So even planning becomes really critical at the time of setting up cron jobs or setting up schedules or maybe batch jobs, right? Okay, what next we are going to monitor here? We are going to monitor
like
server
incoming traffic for a particular application.
Pardon?
Status.
What did you say?
Incoming traffic.
Okay, yeah, incoming traffic. Okay, so let me tell you, first of all, when we design these sort of services, when we design these sort of servers, so ideally it is recommended that we should not be running MySQL, Apache, Tomcat, WordPress on the single server. There should be individual applications. Now, when we have same set of applications running on one server, then we can easily identify that there is no other activity happening on this server. If traffic is coming, then this will be related to this service only. If there is a requirement, let us say that we have set up multiple microservices onto the same instance, we will discuss about microservice architecture as well today itself. Because until unless we understand the like monolithic application architecture and we understand microservice architecture, we shall not be able to explain that to our interviewer in a proper manner, right? We are going to discuss that today.
Okay.
So we will monitor server status here, like whether server is up and running or not. Then after we will check the major services. Let us say HTTP. HTTP service, either we can consider part of this or we can consider part of application. That will be depending on you. But end of the day, because same monitoring tool is going to be part of your infrastructure. So whether you consider as part of your hardware template, or you can call that OS template, or you can consider that to be part of your application stack. But there are going to be two separate components which you need to monitor. So after server status, like we can monitor ping command here, right? Then after the major and the most critical service, which we need to monitor here is SSH. Because every time we need to monitor, we need to log into server, that SSH service should be up and running all the times, right? Moreover, what happens, first of all, in cloud environment, you might have seen by default, the particular ping service is blocked, but SSH service is allowed. So if you need to monitor the server status, then rather than monitoring your ping command, you can monitor your SSH status. If server is allowing you to do SSH into server, which means that will definitely help you to understand and to enable your server uptime status. Then after, what else you need to do? Logged in user. Now how will it help? So guys, we should be knowing that how many users are performing activity in this particular server. For example, if it is a jump server, we can maybe we can ignore that particular. But if it is application server and the number of logged in user is 20, for example, right? So we need to identify immediately that who is doing what on this particular server, whether if there any unwanted activity which is going on right now on this particular server or what. Because if multiple users are working here, then they may end up doing something wrong. We need to check that whether any unauthenticated user has logged in here, right? So logged in users monitoring has to be enabled. Then after, what else we need to monitor? If we are using swap. So if swap file system is enabled on the system, then this has to be enabled. And guys, these are the major components which we need to monitor, like CPU, memory, disk, network, server status, SSH, logged in users, swap, right? And obviously when we talk about disk, so uses and IOPS, so these will be some different component here under monitoring section, right guys? Okay. Now if we talk about, any question guys?
Yes, the logged in users, it can be also done by audit bit in ELK, right? Is it same?
See, when we talk about logged in users, so it could be helpful for audit purpose. We can read the particular output of W command, or we can run any command for checking logged in users. We will discuss that. But for now, we are just focusing on the particular stats or the particular data point which are supposed to be put under monitoring.
Okay.
Okay, so when we talk about application, so let us say
using Nagios, can we monitor Windows instance?
Yes, we can monitor that. So if we talk about Nagios or Nagios, whatever you call it, so like there are two components. First of all, NRPE monitoring, Nagios as monitoring engine, and there is one other component which is known as NRPE. NRPE stands for, let me write it down, NRPE. Nagios Remote Plugin Executor. N for Nagios, R for remote, P for plugin, and E for executor. Like NRPE will be installed on like client system, like all the servers which are part of your infrastructure, and Nagios monitoring engine will be used or will be installed on a centralized monitoring server where all the like client machine for Nagios, like it could be Apache, it could be DB, it could be any other server, will be sending their stats to that centralized server for monitoring purpose. So if someone is going to ask you, okay, what do we install on remote server? So NRPE is going to be the component. Right, guys?
Okay. Is it something Nagios is doing and Prometheus cannot do?
There is nothing like that.
Okay, then okay, fine.
Because definitely you can ask one another question, then why we are talking about why it is being replaced, why we are talking about Prometheus, why we are not talking about like Nagios. So guys, keep this thing in mind, whether it is Prometheus or whether it is your Nagios. So Prometheus has latest features. Moreover, it is written in Golang, which is a lot faster, less CPU consuming. Moreover, it works on pull mechanism, right? And that works on push mechanism. So these are the particular differences here. Moreover,
what about Dynatrace, sir?
So Dynatrace, it can also work over here. And even like if you talk about monitoring tools, so it could be your Datadog, it could be a Splunk, it could be a New Relic, it could be App Dynamics. So there are a hell lot of tools available. Maybe you can talk about Jabix, right? A lot of tools are available, but that completely depends only on your requirement. That what does your requirement say? Do you need to have lightweight monitoring engine? Do you want to have centralized monitoring engine, or like what? So we cannot say only this is the particular tool which is going to be helpful for you. So end of the day, what you need to decide here is whether you are looking for paid tool, you are looking for like open source tool, like what? Okay, now when we talk about service, so basically, first of all, we need to check about the service port or status. Now, what does it mean, service port or service status, guys? So we should monitor, first of all, that our application is running properly or not. What is the status of it? Then after, number of requests on that particular application. Then after, resources used by application. Like if it is Java application, for example, then how much memory it is consuming, how much CPU it is consuming. Then after, if it is Java application, then heap dump, thread dump we need to monitor. Moreover, GC, like garbage collection, which is known as garbage collector. These sort of things we need to monitor. Then after, performance, which is known as like performance response time. So these sort of things we need to monitor. Then after, before sending an application to production environment, this is going to be one pre-check. So what we are going to do? Performance testing will become part of your running application. Before running performance test on production environment, we need to do load testing. Like, let us say, what is the particular maximum limit this particular application can handle? How many concurrent users can log into this application? If number of users are increasing, so is response time also increasing or not? These sort of things, definitely, guys, we need to take care of. Right, guys? So if we are talking about these things, if we know about these things, which means definitely we have set up monitoring earlier. Moreover, if we have not set up monitoring earlier, then at least we have the idea about the data point which need to be monitored. Moreover, one more thing, in case of microservices, that we need to monitor the particular endpoint like API health check URL. This is very, very critical to monitor, guys. And what do we monitor? What do we get to know after monitoring this URL, guys? We get to know the particular developer who is going to provide you this URL. Okay, we need to monitor this URL in order to ensure that our application is up and running properly. So guys, that developer will write couple of queries here within this URL that it will let you know the status of database connection, that whether this application is able to connect with database or not. Because sometimes what happens, that your application may come up, but that is not able to like have connection with database because your database may be overloaded. There could be some connectivity issue. The particular application property file which you have defined is not appropriate. Maybe you might have copied and pasted the URL of your development environment, maybe of your testing environment into production, right? So this API health check will get failed because we cannot connect production application to like the development environment. So guys, these are the particular things which we need to monitor here. So any question guys here so far?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Is the then whatever you are saying, like this, all the things monitoring. So we can use any tool like a Dynatrace, a Datadog, whatever tool it works, but we have to use this all the things, right?
You're right.
Okay. But it doesn't matter. So did we have to use everything, or is it okay to use only one? Most of the organizations some organizations, they use Datadog and Dynatrace, sorry. So did we have to use like a couple of things, mix and match, or is it only one tool it works perfectly?
Okay, so let me tell you, most of organization prefers to use, see, if you are working with any traditional organization, like if it is TCS, IBM, Wipro, HCL, so these are especially in case of IBM, because they have their in-house developed tools. So they would prefer to use their own developed tool. Why would they pay for any other third-party open source tool, right? So they prefer to use those tools. But if you talk about any middle layer or any new startup, they always prefer to go with open source technology, because they would like to spend for the infrastructure, not for the licensing cost. Because if you talk about New Relic, if you talk about Datadog, so they have two models. Either you can go for EULA, enterprise user license, you can go for individual node monitoring. Moreover, under node monitoring, they have some additional parameters there, like how many data points will you be monitoring for individual virtual machine or physical server. The charging model is really unique. So let us say today you have 25 servers, and because of you are running some auto scaling group, because of high load, the number of server reaches to 40. So as soon as they will get a trace, like New Relic team will get a trace that right now XYZ organization is running with 40 server, they will charge you for 40 server. Otherwise, you can get a blanket approval from their side that you need not to worry about that how many number of servers we are monitoring. We are going to have an agreement with you for 100 servers for next 1 year, whether we may reach out to 200 or whether we may remain on 25, but we will pay you for that. That sort of agreements are there. So rather than counting on the number of machines, most of organization, and especially as I told you that the particular upcoming organizations, which are either startups or mid-level organization, 3 to 4 years old organization, they prefer to go with open source tool like New Relic, so not New Relic, sorry, Prometheus. They would like to go with Zabbix. They would like to prefer to opt like Nagios, because these are open source tools. They do not have to pay even a single buck. Even a single bucks they have to pay for licensing cost. And even the licensing is really costly. If you talk about App Dynamics, then even single user license for enterprise organization is for more than ₹1 crore license they provide. So monitoring stuff is really costly. So okay guys, I guess we are good with that. So what we are going to do, so we are going to set up monitoring here. Let us keep this aside. And obviously guys, that is also going to be part of this particular infrastructure like segment only. So we will do monitoring of web servers, of application servers, of proxy server, of databases, and everything. We can monitor everything here, right? Now, when we talk about like what other component we need to have here, so guys, we need to keep this thing in mind that we are going to have, okay. So guys, the next thing we are going to have here, that is going to be Jenkins. Now, guys, why we are going to have Jenkins here? Let us say we need to do deployment. We need to do deployment here. And guys, what is deployment? When developers are working. So in that particular use case, we need to introduce your Git. Right? Multiple developers who are sitting out of this particular box. So let us say these are our developers. Developers are doing development. So these are two developers. They are doing development here, right? So these developer will do their development and will push code to Git. So Git is our SCM, source code repository, right? Source code management repository, that is known as. So we will integrate our Jenkins with Git. So guys, this is also one interview question. We will discuss in detail that what protocol do you use to integrate your Jenkins with Git, or maybe GitHub, maybe GitLab. So that's why rather than being product specific, I have defined here Git. So guys, there are three things what we can use here. I would like to explain right away. Either it could be HTTPS or SSH or Git CH or Git SH, you can call that. So either Git shell we can talk about, or SSH or HTTPS. Guys, keep this thing in mind. Within recent past, GitHub has disabled the authentication method. Like if you want to push, you will have to do SSH based authentication. Right, so Git has disabled the particular HTTP protocol, but yes, if you mention, that will not be wrong answer, because definitely so far GitHub used to allow these three methods: Git CH or Git SH, right? So basically like GitHub command shell that is. So even Git has its own internal mechanism to integrate Jenkins with Git, right? So if someone is going to ask you that what is the particular protocol do you use to integrate Jenkins with Git, so will you be able to answer that?
Yes, of course. It's going to be HTTPS or SSH.
Yes, either it is HTTPS or it is SSH or it is Git's own protocol, which is Git CH or SH, right? So now this server has to be integrated. This Jenkins server has to be integrated with web servers, with application server. And guys, keep this thing in mind. We do not do deployment on database server with the help of Jenkins. This is not recommended because there is some specific team which is aligned or which is assigned to perform the database query execution. Otherwise, if it is required to execute your database query as well, then what do we do here is, rather than having connection directly with this server, so there will be one another component. Like we would prefer to have another component here. Over here, we will have a particular MySQL client or maybe Oracle client, whatever we have. From this server, we will have a connection with these like servers, and there we are going to execute query. From this server, there will be one additional client, and from this server, we will execute query on this particular server. Maybe update, alter, insert, delete, whatever it is. So we will have one client here, and from this particular client, we will plan to execute MySQL query here. If we have dedicated team, then we will align them, and we will ask them to execute query. Whatever the query developers are providing as part of release section, we will assign that query to DBA team, and DBA team will perform that. Right, guys? Jenkins server has to be has to have password based authentication. Jenkins server needs to have key based authentication, not password based, sorry. Jenkins server has to have key based authentication on all the servers, because every time it is not a good practice to provide password while doing deployment and all. Right, guys? So this is something what we need to take care of. Moreover, when we talk about Jenkins, so guys, it is really essential to understand that what other components which are integrated with Jenkins. Now, when we are talking about deployment, so DevOps team's task is not only to pull code from Git and make a jar, war, or any like executable build out of that particular source code and send it to maybe web server or to application server. No, it is not only the task of DevOps team. DevOps team has to ensure the quality of code. So in order to ensure that particular section, we will integrate a SonarQube. So guys, SonarQube is a particular software which is basically used. SonarQube is a tool which is basically used to check the code, like code of quality. What the quality of code it is used to check. Moreover, we will have here Nexus or JFrog or Artifactory. So guys, these are the names of some repositories. These are known as artifact repositories. For example, the developer gave me, see, there are three major components we need to understand. First of all, the particular branch. Okay, repo, then branch, then commit ID. Guys, please do let me know if we are aware of these three terms. Repo means repository, then branch, then commit ID.
Yes.
Is there anyone who is not aware of these terms? Guys, feel free to ask.
Repeat one, sir.
Okay, great. So guys, whenever we work on a project, so there is a particular separate sort of folder created. I must not call that folder because that is already a repository. Because so one repository is created. Repository is basically a point where we have to keep all the code related to one project, right? Then after branch. So there could be multiple branches, like it could be master, it could be stage, it could be release, it could be a development, it could be feature. So multiple branches could be there. Branches means a particular state of that particular entire source code. So, and every branch will have multiple commit IDs. So what we need to ensure here is, let us say branch name is going to remain same. For example, we are going, let us say call it release branch, right? So now the developer gave me the release branch that you can pull the code from release branch, and I pulled the code using my Jenkins tool because Jenkins is already integrated with Git, where this repo is created, these branches are available, and even the commit ID is available. But what happened when developer gave me the release branch? So there are a couple of sign-offs required, guys, before every release. So if you are part of DevOps team, then you have to have information about these particular sign-offs. Moreover, a person might ask you that what are the type of release do you push to production? What are the type of release? Types of release. So guys, first of all, it could be a normal release, or you can call that planned release. So guys, these sort of changes are planned in a day or two or maybe a week advance. For example, we know that today is 14th of March, but on 20th of March, there is a planned activity scheduled when we are going to reboot our database for any requirement, or maybe we are going to change the hardware type of our application server. So what do we call these sort of changes?
Planned.
Normal or planned changes. Moreover, we have a standard. So standard means, like, we know that today the development team has done the development, the source code is ready. Now we need to send this code to production, but next day. These are known as standard changes. CR means change request. We can write it down. C means change. Thereafter, we have urgent. We have urgent CR. Now, guys, what is urgent CR? Let us say if there is a production bug, there is some issue going on in production. Now, developer wants to have that sort of changes available in environment. Now, guys, what is going to happen here? As soon as the developer will complete the development for fixing that bug, they will notify business team. Business team will say that, okay, this looks good. Then after, they will reach out to security team. They will say it looks good. They will reach out to particular operation team. I'll tell you the flow. How does it work in more detail? They will reach out to operation team. They will inform operation team, okay, these are the changes which we have made. So once the code is deployed into production environment, that should not be a surprise for TechOps team. Right? Then after, they will like do the deployment on the same day. So these sort of changes, like urgent changes, are required to be on same day. Standard changes and normal or planned changes are supposed to be raised maybe in a day, like in a week advance, or maybe like before at least a day or two. These are known as standard changes. Urgent change is required to be sent for same day. But then after, we have emergency change request. So what happens, guys, here is when we are talking about these sort of changes, we need to understand that there are a couple of approval process we have. Guys, why we are talking about these things, why we are discussing about these things, being part of DevOps team, every single person has to understand these sort of things, that without this approval, we can actually not take any code, even a single line of code cannot be pushed to production environment. Production environment has to be very, very stable. Moreover, if you are working with any financial institution or such an organization where multiple financial transaction happens, so in that case, we have to be compliant. Right, guys? Guys, just a moment. Yes, guys. So when we talk about, so this sort of release cycle has to go through a couple of approval process. So the very first approval which has to have here, which we need to have here is, that is known as QA, like quality assurance. That is first sign off we need. Then after we need UAT. Now guys, what is UAT stand for?
User acceptance test.
Right. User acceptance test. And what does it mean, guys? That when we are talking about that the business team who developed the requirement or who raised the requirement, that team has to be satisfied that yes, the particular interface is looking good, the workflow of this particular task is looking good, everything seems good as per their expectation, only then they will give like UAT sign off. Then after we need to reach out to security sign off, right? After that, we need to take sign off from tech ops team, or you can call that operations team, that is known as B2O, business to operation. These are standard terms, guys. Keep this thing in mind. Right? Then after, there could be some other approvals. Let us say if there is urgent CR, there could be different release process. If there is some standard CR, there is some different release process. Like number of sign-offs may increase or remain same. For example, if there is any emergency change. So in case of emergency change, neither QA is required nor UAT, security, B2, nothing is required. Developers will do the bug fix. They will raise the change. If production is down, that is utmost priority for every single person in the organization. No approval is required, but yes, there is a particular timeline that post doing deployment within maybe 5 working days or maybe within 7 working days, that will be depending on the timelines of the organization, that within these many working days, we will gather all the sign-offs which are mentioned like QA, UAT, security, and other sign-offs. Are we clear with that, guys? Like what sort of changes do we push to production?
I have a quick question.
Please go ahead.
What about if is it an emergent, CR request or emergency request or something, if the developer fix, so if that fix is how the user knows exactly it works in production without the testing in QA or UAT? It has to test in QA and UAT, right?
Not exactly. Let us say if there is a particular change, for example, that there was a particular workflow, as we are talking about e-com platform. So there was a particular flow that a person was able to see the particular cart of other users as well. Let us say there was a bug. The developer is the person who has developed that logic. Developer knows it very well that, okay, I missed this to put this particular check. If I put it, then it will work. Development manager will verify the change. The particular code, like peer code review would happen, that will ensure that yes, this will work. So they need not to take any other thing in place, like neither QA nor UAT nor security, whether like if there was a particular single check, right? So when we are talking about that, if it is emergency, then the particular code fix is the utmost priority of every single person, right? So in that case, we need not to take QA, UAT, security, and other sign-offs here. What we need to do here is we need to just push the code to production to fix the like that particular issue first, and then after we will have to figure out the RC of it, that why this particular use case was not tested in last release when it was going to production. Right? Okay. When we are talking, okay, Arshad is asking something, is it the responsibility of DevOps engineer to raise CR in case of planned standard emergency CR? So that will depend on, once again, that depends on organizational structure. So in most of cases, either the particular Scrum Master or the particular developer who is doing development will raise the CR, because only they know when it is supposed to be pushed to production environment. Moreover, if you talk about toolings, so like tools and technology, so ServiceNow is the most famous tool as of now, ServiceNow. Moreover, if you have to track the particular task, that how much it has been completed, who is working on it, when it is supposed to be completed, then Jira is the particular tool, Jira. Jira is the particular tool which is used to task tracking. Okay, so I guess we are good with this.
In the organization, they use Jira and I mean the other two both.
So like for task tracking, most of organization prefers to use Jira. But when we talk about like change management, process change flow, process management, then organization are using here. What do I call? ServiceNow.
Sorry.
Okay, so guys, why we are discussing all these things? Because whenever developer is going to give us a particular branch release or a commit ID, Jenkins will pull the code. But what if the particular commit ID where developer took the approval from QA, from security, from UAT, and I am given only the particular branch name? So it could also happen that even after giving me the particular release branch name or the particular branch name, the branch name, repo name, everything, so developer may be able to commit anything even a day after. Because let us say today is 14th of March and the release is planned for 16th of March, for example. Now guys, what would happen? So it can also be possible that the developer may commit any other code before I send that release to production. Is it possible or not, guys? Because developer has right. As and when the developer wants, the person can commit, right?
Yes.
So what do we do here is we use Nexus or JFrog or Artifactory repository to ensure that once the particular build is created, we are not going to modify the artifact. Right, guys? So whenever Jenkins is going to do the deployment, so Jenkins is going to keep the artifact into Nexus or JFrog or Artifact repository in order to ensure that even maybe a day after or two, if the developer is going to commit anything within release branch itself or within the master branch itself, then we need not to worry about anything here. Okay, when we talk about that, at what moment we need to develop the particular artifact. So guys, there are different environments. First of all, we have dev environment, right? Developing environment we have. Then after we have QA environment. Let us write it down, ENV. Then after we have QA environment. Then after we have UAT, where user acceptance test is gathered. Then after UAT environment, then after we have SIT. Now guys, what does SIT mean here? SIT stands for System Integration Test. For example, right now we are using PHP 5. The version of PHP is 5 and the particular database version is like 5.7. But as the technology is emerging, so we are also supposed to upgrade, or maybe there are some bugs in previous version of PHP and MySQL, right? We need to upgrade it. So where we would upgrade it first? We would first of all, developer will upgrade, because obviously the person would need to have latest version of software available on their laptop where they are doing development. Then after, we need to update the particular software in SIT environment, System Integration Test, that how would it look like, how would it work, whether it is going to enhance or reduce the performance, right? So first of all, we are going to implement the software in SIT environment. If it works here, then we will replicate the same stack of software onto UAT or like QA environment. Finally, we have an environment which is known as prod, or you can call that, or you may have pre-prod, right? Moreover, these environments are known as alpha, Maybe you can call that beta, gamma, and finally delta. So this sort of environment we may have, and keep this thing in mind. Finally, the prod is known as prod only. So what do we need to understand here, guys? So based on different organization nomenclature, this environment may have different names, like dev may be known as alpha, QA may be known as beta, UAT known as gamma, SIT known as delta. Then after prod may be known as production environment, or the the topmost environment, whatever you call it, right? I guess we are good with this. Any
what is SIT? SIT means?
SIT means system integration test, where we have to solve, where we check the particular functionality of the software. As I just gave you one example, that if we are in need to check whether the upgraded version of software is going to work or not, is it going to enhance the functionality of the software, or it is going to downgrade the performance of the software. So these sort of testings are done within SIT environment, because we can directly not upgrade the version of software into production environment only. So we need to integrate. For example, earlier Java 9 was working. Right now we are going to work with Java 17. So does the particular microservices or the particular services which are running in our environment, so do these microservices support this much version upgrade or not? Or whether we will have to do incremental upgrades. Let us say last 6 months we were using Java 7. Now we have started using Java 8. Then after 9, 10, 11. So do we have to do the sequential upgrade, or can we do like one-time upgrade only? Like from Java 8 to Java 17, we can jump directly. This is just for example, guys. I guess that makes sense, guys.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, one more thing I would like to tell you guys. Okay, when we are talking about these environments, so there is one other stack which is used for deciding the environment. The very first environment here is known as DMZ, which is known as demilitarized zone. Now, what does it mean? All the web server or internet facing application. Guys, keep this thing in mind. All the web servers, or you can call that internet facing app or applications, are kept here. These servers have two types of IP addresses. Primarily, these servers have public IP address and a private IP address. Using public IP address, these servers are going to accept the traffic from internet. Using private IP address, these servers are going to forward the request. Let us consider this is our DMZ zone. Because when we talked about last week, so we were talking that these are our web servers, right? Let us define here. So considering that this is our web server, so this will be kept under DMZ zone, demilitarized zone. These servers are supposed to be very, very secure, because these are going to be internet facing, and only the required ports. It could be port number 80 for HTTP protocol, port number HTTPS for HTTPS 443 port, right? Only these two ports are supposed to be opened on these particular servers. Moreover, whenever we are doing this sort of activity, so port 80 should be redirecting all the traffic to port number 443. Like there should be automatic redirection in place. What we are going to do here, we will set up a redirection that whenever request is going to come on port 80, that will be forwarded automatically to port number 443, because port 80 is not considered to be secure. That is why we do not enable the request on port number 80 in any production environment. Yes, we can say that port 80 and 443 are enabled for external users, but internally what we have done here is maybe on the level of load balancer, maybe on the level of firewall. So what we have done here is that whenever any request comes on port number 80, we redirect that request to port number 443 internally, as our customer is not impacted, because the customer does not have to type in any specific protocol to access our URL. and we ensure that the particular traffic is redirected to HTTPS only. When the customer will be served, so we ensure that customer will be served on HTTPS protocol only. Right, guys? So like web servers are supposed to be considered, okay, not DMS, that is DMZ. DMZ, okay.
Local, I have. Hello.
Yes, guys. Any questions so far?
Yeah. Hello, I'm audible?
Yes, Mahendra, you are audible.
Yeah, I have one doubt. When we hit any domain on the browser for web application, we are not providing any port, right? Like ATR 443, right?
Right.
That request will serve very well. But when we want to access data some other port, then we will provide the port number like 9001 or 3000 or something port which is your service is running.
Right.
Then I want to know where that 80 or 443 will be, how that request will be understood by the server or application, that request will come for 80 port or 443 port.
Okay, very good, very good. So guys, is there anyone who would like to answer the question? This is really fantastic question.
Sure. I can answer this one. You're gonna know the port by the knowing the protocol, because when you do HTTP, that's automatically, you know, the port is gonna be open 80. If you do HTTPS, you know the port is 443. That's just now.
Okay.
But the
so,
protocol.
What's your name? I forgot. You gave really fantastic answer. What's your name?
That's my sister name. It's my name is Adam.
Yeah, Adam. So I was a little confused. So okay. So Adam, I have a question for you. You know, because you have read it somewhere written that, okay, this is going to be, for example, port number 80 listens, or port number 80 is for HTTP, port number 443 is for HTTPS, right? So how does browser know this?
By local DNS.
Because you know, Adam, I agree with that you know it well. But my question here is, how does your browser know?
Because it's known by the registration, like the DNS record, right? Because in a DNS, a local DNS, you have because the server has a network software and you have the port sign it in the web server. Okay. During this time, you already sign everything, which port you want to open for HTTP protocol.
Great. Good to know that. Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, so Mahendra, now coming to you. So guys, keep this thing in mind whenever we are working with any browser. So all the browsers have some standards, right? So what happens here is, whenever we are trying to browse any website, so all the browsers default nature is going to remain same, because when we talk about IP addressing and the particular port, IP/port, when we talk about, so guys, we need to understand that every single browser understands that what is public IP address and what is private IP address. Second thing, every single browser understands that what are standard ports, what are registered ports, what are unregistered ports. There are different type of ports available. So if you would like to go for here, like non-registered ports. So if you see ports in the range of this, like 1024249151 are not like assigned or controlled, but can be registered to prevent duplication, right? Dynamic ports are always going to be between 49152265535. These are known as dynamic ports. And if you talk about port number like 0 to 1023, these are known as standard ports, which are already assigned to some or the other protocol. For example, if I ask you what is port number of SSH?
That is 22.
Perfectly fine. What is port number of like HTTP?
HTTP, that is
80.
Fault is
okay.
80.
If I ask you, Adam, this question is for you. What is the port number of SMTP?
23, I think.
Okay, Victor, this question is for you. What is the particular port number of Kerberos?
Don't know, sir.
88. Okay, what is port number of TCP?
It might be either 80 or 443, right?
Now, what is port number of UDP?
3.
So even TCP works on a port, UDP works on a port, FTP works on port number 20, 22, 20 and 21. Telnet works on port number 23, right? So these are standard ports. These are well known to everyone. These are standard ports. And after that, we have two ranges like registered and like dynamic ports we have, as you can see on this particular screen, right? So when we talk about the standard ports, so be it is, let us say you are working in India or you are working in US, Australia, wheresoever you go. So if you are using any browser which works on like industry standard, so by default, if you type in HTTP protocol, so by default, every single browser understands that we have to send the request on port number 80 itself. If you type in port like HTTPS before your domain or before the particular before www.google.com, so by default all browser understand this thing that the port number which we have to send from here is 443 only. Yes, in case as you rightly said that if any application is working on any non-standard port, for example port number 3000, it can be possible that I may run my application which is running on HTTP. I can assign a different port. The port number may be 3000, maybe 30,000. I can assign. That will be non-standard port, and that port is not registered because port number 30,000 comes under registered ports. That is range here. Right, guys? So we will have to define that port number after our domain name. Are we clear with that, guys?
It's by default. Tomcat and Jenkins, they have same port, right? ED, right?
Okay.
Come again.
Tomcat and the Jenkins, by default, they have port ED, right?
Yes, because even Jenkins, if you might have seen, the Jenkins works on a UI, right? Jenkins has its own UI user interface like web page. Same thing goes with Tomcat. So Tomcat has its own web page. They both work on a web server. They both have a particular interface where user can interact with the application. But if some web server is already running there and we need to run Jenkins as well on the same server, then guys, we need to have a separate port on the same IP address. Only then Jenkins and Nginx can run on the same server, serving two different services. Moreover, if you want, you can modify, like there is a particular file known as config.xml in Jenkins or maybe in Tomcat as well. So in that particular configuration file, you can modify the default port from 8080 to 80 only. Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
Lokendra, but my question was that when we hit the any domain from browser, suppose http:// something domain.com, right? If I hit that, this will be served at port 80. And as Adam said, that is the identified by HTTP. HTTP is default port is 80. But when I request the hit http:// domain.com :3000, that is the another port. That port will be identified by browser or identified by server. Which level this is?
Okay, let me tell you. When we define here, let us say 8000. So yeah, right now, this particular browser will send request irrespective of you are sending this request over HTTPS or HTTP. This request will be sent to server. If server is listening on port number 8000, then this particular request will be identified and served by your server only. Browser does not understand any other port rather than port number 80 or 443. Because this browser is already working on port number 8, like either you are going to send request on port number 8000, but if you see, this browser has already mentioned its own default protocol, which is HTTPS.
Okay.
So whatever port number you define, this browser, irrespective of what service you are going to access it on, this will send request to your mentioned server on port number 8000. So by default, browser understands only port number either 80 or 443. Irrespective of your remaining ports, you can define any port that will be handled by your server only. Your browser has nothing to do with that.
Okay, okay. This is all these are handled by server application like Apache, Tomcat, whatever the services.
Yes,
they run.
yes, yes,
Right?
you are right. So okay, right now we are seeing here like we have Nexus, we have JFrog, we have Artifact repository, right? We have here like SonarQube for code quality, like, and moreover we have here code quality gate. So what does it mean, code quality gate? So when we like scan our, like, okay, spelling is a little mistake. Okay, when we are talking about code quality gate, so whenever SonarQube does scan, okay, I forgot to tell you that why do we keep Artifact here. So this could be a particular possible scheme that once we have generated the particular build, so there is a particular like methodology which is known as build one, deploy many. So once you have deployed a particular source code, you have created a jar file or maybe a war file, then what is going to happen, guys, here? In that, can S3 be used? Yes, S3 can also be used because S3 also provides a particular versioning. But S3 is not that efficient as these sort of like software are, because these have more capabilities than that of S3 bucket. Okay. So once the particular code is deployed here, so we may deploy the particular artifact which are generated once from this particular piece of like software from to dev environment to UAT, QA, SIT, or maybe prod environment. So in that particular case, if even a developer is going to commit any other thing into Git, so we need not to develop the particular artifact again and again. We need not to generate the artifact again and again. Right, guys? That is why we believe in build once, deploy many. Once you generate the artifact, that will be deployed into SIT, into dev, into like all the environments. Are we clear with that thing, guys?
Can you repeat what you said again slowly? I'm so sorry.
Sure, not a problem. So what happens here is, if I have, okay, I got three information like a repo name, repository name, branch name, and a commit ID. I did check out on the Jenkins server. Maybe let us assume that was like Java code. So I executed a command, maybe mvn build or mvn deploy, whatever command I executed, that generated one jar file for me. I copied that jar file to one of these artifact repositories. Let us talk about Nexus. Let us not have these two. So I copied that particular jar file to Nexus repository. Now that jar file is available. Till the time that is being deployed onto different environment, I will have two different jobs, one for build and other jobs will be for deployment. So deployment job can be for dev environment, for UAT, for SIT, for production environment, but every single job will rely on this Nexus repository, because it has only one artifact, which is supposed to be deployed across the environment. Because let us say if a developer has provided me a branch name which is known as release, and when I deployed it onto dev environment, so that was some different code. The same code was deployed onto QA environment. The quality engineer has given sign off that, okay, this code looks good, everything is working fine. But when the code went to UAT environment, so in the meanwhile, developer has added couple of more line of code into it. I will do deployment once again. But if I do not follow this procedure, that build once, deploy many, what would happen? In that case, the developers additionally added code will also be pushed to UAT environment, which means now there is a deviation. The particular quality engineer, the particular commit ID, or the particular code where quality engineer has given the sign off is different from the particular code where UAT team is testing right now. like user acceptance test, where it is going on the code base is different, right guys? If we talk about production environment, so it could be possible that some other developer may commit something else within that particular branch before sending it to production environment, right? So let us say there are 3 commits. Let us write it here. So C1 was the commit ID where we, okay, let us increase the font. So C1 is the commit ID where QA engineer gave the sign off. C2 was the commit ID where UAT engineer gave, UAT team gave the sign off. Let us say C3 was the commit ID where your security team gave the sign off. C4 is the particular code which we are deploying to production. But if we get this particular C1 as commit ID, then what we are going to do here, we will not pull the code from our repository again and again. What we will do here, we will just paste it and we will send this particular like code to Artifactory, right? The same artifact, okay, the same code will be deployed to you, first of all QA, then after UAT, then after security environment, or maybe whatever, then after prod as well. So I'll let you know guys that only one artifact is going to be deployed onto different environment. So in this particular case, if we are using Artifactory, as and when we are going to do the development for the very first time, so in that particular case, we are not going to pull the code from like GitHub again and again. Only same artifact which is tested on QA, say will be deployed on UAT, onto security, okay, SEC, I must write it here, like security, or SIT, like if it is SIT, so and prod. So guys, what scheme does look good? This one, like we are building again and again, or we are building once and deploying multiple times?
Building once and apply multiple times. That's more.
Because in this particular case, there will be a particular consistency within code deployment. Like the code which is tested on QA, tested on UAT, SIT, so same is going to be pushed to production if we have build once, deploy many. Or let us say if we are deploying, if we are building the code for like every time we are building code for QA, for UAT, for security, for prod, then in that particular case, guys, what is going to happen? Definitely there will be some inconsistency, right guys? Okay. So when we talk about next component here, so next component remains here, that is known as Ansible.
It is a referral document for PO creation, Ram.
So guys, what we are talking here is, so the particular next component is going to be Ansible, because let us say if we have to take backup, if we have to create user, if we have to modify any configuration property file or anything we have to perform, then Ansible server can also be like used just along with Jenkins, or maybe you can have separate server. Once again, guys, you need to have enable password like passwordless authentication, or you can call that key-based authentication from your Ansible server to enter infrastructure wherever it is supposed to be performing operations for you.
What is called, you said? Can you write it?
This is known as Ansible, ANSIBLE. This is known as for configuration management.
Yeah, no, I know it, but what does the abbreviation? That's the buzzing word you said. T-base or something?
Deviation.
Okay.
Okay. So guys, what we are going to do here is, deviation means the particular differences. The differences are known as deviation as well. Okay. So this is known as configuration management. So Ansible will be used for configuration management. For example, if you need to, maybe like your current DNS server is not working, you need to update DNS server IP address onto all machines. What will you do here? You will write a small playbook. You will execute it for all server, including web, app, and database, SQL, and everywhere. It will go and it will modify the configurations for you, right? So this is how one infrastructure look like, right, guys? And guys, we have only 5 minutes. We have only 5 minutes to explain our infrastructure in interview, and it's been somewhere 3 hours, like approx 1.5 hours we discussed on Thursday. and it's been approx 1 hour and 10 minutes we are discussing today itself. So what do you think, guys? Does it look good or not?
Oh, I think we're still going to go deeper, right? Because just like, right?
Right.
Okay. No, let's return back because you start for SonarQube, you're gonna scan, and you are starting to talk about code quality gate, and you stop there.
Right. So we use Nexus within this infrastructure for ensuring that we are generating artifact once and deploying multiple times. When we pull the code from here, then after we will do code like SonarQube for code quality testing, like code quality gate to break the build. So these sort of component we integrated with Jenkins. Jenkins will be used to do deployment onto different environment like dev, QA, UAT, SIT production. Then after we have Ansible for configuration management. So ideally, guys, what I have seen so far here is, because Ansible actually does not take a lot of resources, because we do not execute Ansible playbooks very frequently. So why do we need to have additional server for that? We just need to send in instructions. And after that, whatever operation has to be performed, that will be performed on these servers only. For example, I need to install a package on all the servers. For example, I have 1000 server, and this Ansible is going to set instruction to these servers. Okay, install, let us say any command, maybe nmap command install. So where the command will be installed? On these nodes only. Like for installing commands, only these nodes, like these web servers, application server, database servers are going to be used. Ansible will just send the instructions only, that what to do. The operation will be performed on this server only. So that is why Ansible actually does not create a lot of load on the particular server where it is configured, right? So either we can club Ansible and Jenkins all together, or we can have separate machine. But guys, keep this thing in mind. If you are going to club them, then if because of any reason, if our like physical machine goes down or our virtual machine goes down, then both the services will stop working in that particular case. So it is better to separate them. But if you feel that there is no load, then you can keep both the machines on same server. It will save you to particular like additional cost to your infrastructure, that sort of things. Okay,
but it's not good for performance, because sometimes you need two masters, two Jenkins masters.
Yes. So definitely. What I said,
yeah.
Adam, what I said. So when we are talking about a small infrastructure where there is no high load, even we can wait for maybe for half an hour for doing deployment and all. So definitely we can club them in order to save cost. But in real time environment, in real very big production environment where maybe 20 Jenkins masters are running, maybe 50 Jenkins slaves are running. So in that case, definitely there is no lack of resources. Very high and critical environments are working there. So in that particular case, it does not make any sense to club two different services on a single hardware. Okay, so guys, this is from front end side. And guys, tomorrow we are going to discuss about the backend, like how does backend work here? Like how does WMS? Have you heard of WMS? Warehouse management system.
No, I didn't have.
Okay, so not a problem, guys. Let us not touch this particular part, because as soon as we add this, so there will be some other components, like we will discuss about Elasticsearch. We will discuss about Redis. We will discuss about Kafka. We will discuss about CDC. And we will discuss about Maxwell. So these are some other software which we are going to discuss tomorrow, because see guys, until unless this particular segment is completed, you shall not be able to prove that yes, you have worked in a real time environment.
ELK, sir?
ELK, like Elasticsearch is there.
Oh, okay, sir.
For logs, tracing the log.
So Elasticsearch is there, Logstash and Kibana. So we are going to discuss this. So this particular section will be covered tomorrow, guys.
Yeah, I have one question before you leave. I had one question, and they asked me, like, can you name some plugin, Jenkins plugin we use in our environment?
So for sure, we are going to discuss about when we will discuss about Jenkins as an individual tool. So some of tools here are maybe, let us say you have used here Git, SSH, maybe GitHub, GitLab integration, LDAP integration. These sort of tool you might have used. To I'll tell you all the plugin names. You don't have to worry about it.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So guys, any feedback for the session?
Yes, it's good. You did good. I appreciate that. You know, you tried to brush everything. It's good. I like it.
Nice session.
Okay, any other one would like to say anything on that?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay, so guys, the same way we are going to touch upon other sections as well, like all the single components, because I would like to spend one more day on this infrastructure architecture diagram, because if someone is able to explain this, then most of chances are there the person would be able to execute things as well. Most of people do not understand this end-to-end strategy, because either they are working with web server or application server or database server, they do not understand that what other ecosystems are there and what they are performing there, right? That sort of thing. So guys, okay, sounds good. So see you tomorrow then. And guys, those guys who are still not registered, please do registration, because tomorrow's session will be only for registered candidates. Thank you so very much. And if you want to have information, you can ping me directly. This is my number, 783879 3800. This is my Google Pay or Phone Pay number. Well, thank you everyone, guys. I'm going to stop recording. I'll be publishing this video.